Being very entitled and controlling, narcissists have no difficulty stepping all over your personal boundaries. So that's why I put together an extensive video class called This Is Me. It has 25 videos, written documents, guided questions. I'm going to teach you how to have healthy boundaries. There's a link below, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. Most of you have already experienced what it can be like when you fall out of favor with a strongly narcissistic person. These people, once they feel like they've been injured by you and they feel like your separateness becomes a rejection toward them, they can come after you with a vengeance. Now, there's something that can be even more difficult or even insidious for you to have to come to terms with is when that one narcissist is attached to an entire system that goes along with that narcissist bent or inclinations. And when you fall out of favor with the narcissist, you can fall out of favor with the entire group, and then you can be exposed to what we refer to as gang stalking. You know, it's easy to kind of think of street gangs, you know, where you have, people that get together for the purpose of, pummeling and punishing anybody that's not in their gang. But when we talk about gang stalking in the context of where most of you live, we're talking about you coming up against a collective, if you will, of narcissists. Sometimes this could be a religious organization. Sometimes it can be a social clique. It can be inside a family system or inside of organizations. Maybe you were a whistleblower with something that went wrong. But the bottom line is there are all sorts of possibilities where your out of favor status brings the entirety of a system down upon you. To give you an idea of what we're talking about, I've spoken with so many individuals who have been, let's say, inside a religious system, and various things have happened in their life where they show themselves to be different, whether it's regarding their sexual orientation, or maybe they just say that I don't agree with the same convictions that you agree with, or they've been through a divorce, or there's been some sort of something that goes contrary to where the religious organization is, and they can feel the venom of an entire group who will more than gladly denigrate that one individual. Well, I've spoken with many individuals who have married into a family situation, and then as the time goes by, weeks, months, years, decades, that one who married into the system may realize, I so don't fit here. I don't think like you people. I don't respect the way you treat people. And then when that becomes more and more obvious and you may wind up moving away, here comes the entirety of the system's venom against you. Or I've spoken with individuals who have broken rank inside of businesses. And it's like, no, I don't do things the way you do. Or there's just somebody who's the queen bee or the king bad guy. And it's like they call them out, and then they wind up coming against that person and the minions that go along with that person. And for crying out loud, yeah, I enjoy watching sports from time to time. I'll even have folks that'll talk about having been spit on by people of a different sports team because you happen to be pulling for the other team. And there can be a meanness that goes there. And we can go on and on. That's what I mean when I say there can be a gang stalking when the entirety of the group can come after you. When we talk about these kinds of gangs or these collectives of narcissists, we're talking about a group that has a very tight ideology. They're unbending in the way that they engage with you and with respect to their beliefs. There's just an irrevocable mindset that they have. It's like you either are with me or you're against me, and if you're against me, then you're out of the club entirely. And they operate with a great deal of what we would refer to as groupthink. There's just agreed upon dogma or mindset or priority list that they go with. People inside this gang or this collective don't listen, they tell. And ultimately, as they come against you, there's all sorts of tactics that they can use. Whether it's a strong smear campaign or harassing you via social media, They can be very clear that you are to be excluded. They can hinder you even as you try to go toward other individuals. It's like they'll chase you down and try to get those other individuals to hate you as much as they do. They can have open insults and declarations, propaganda that targets you in a public kind of way. They can try to sabotage some of your efforts in a work situation. Sometimes they'll bully people that are close to you, whether it's your children or your friends, and they can block alliances that you're trying to make. I mean, the possibilities can be endless, and it's like I say, it's so difficult anyway to try to break away from a narcissist. But then when you have this group, basically what you're dealing with is an entire system of self-righteous haters who are intent on shaming you. They're intent on punishing you simply because you're different. You don't think the way that they do. You're a nonconformist as far as they're concerned. You don't agree with them, or you're not cooperating with their tight script. Let's understand that the people who operate inside this type of collective narcissism, the gang stalking, if you will, have given up their own sense of individuality so that they can serve the group, and they require you or expect you to do the same thing. And I know that as you're listening to this, many of you will nod your head saying, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. And if I don't just go lock, stock, and barrel, then I'm an awful individual. These are profoundly insecure person, and yet they cover that insecurity with an attitude of arrogance. They're highly threatened to the point of being paranoid by anyone that comes along as being different. But instead of saying, I'm highly threatened, they disguise their insecurity by referring to themselves as being the keepers of truth. Now, you can only imagine the emotional fallout that is going to happen when it comes to you realizing this can be a while. This can take some time before I'm going to get away from this. By the way, their primary emotions are going to be hate and anger, but your emotions can go into the anger place. It's like you can be so agitated toward them in reverse. Many times you can have the emotion of just total dismay, as you have this disbelief or shock, like, why would anybody be this way? What's going on there? Sometimes it can turn into the emotion of disgust or disillusionment. Many times you'll feel powerless or helpless. Sometimes you can actually get to the place of feeling really fearful where you're just kind of hypervigilant. I know these people are out there. I talked with one guy who was at a grocery store, just a public place, and one of the people inside the gang that he walked away from accosted him there in the grocery store and started talking with him about all sorts of terrible things. You can sometimes feel isolated and lonely because of all of this. It's going to be necessary as you realize that there is this collective group of narcissists who are more than willing to pull together and then agree that they're going to just make your life miserable. It's, you against the group. It's going to be important for you to have a mindset with respect to how you're going to handle this, because these folks, they can make your life miserable. Now, the good news is over time, they tend to find other people to pick on. That's not good, but at least you're off the center stage, so to speak. But let's keep in mind, first and foremost, as you try to figure out, what am I going to do with this? These are the individuals who have strength in numbers. And that being the case, they feel like that empowers them. That makes them the somebody, the big 800-pound gorilla that you can't mess with. And so you don't want to go into a power struggle at shaking your fist at them as they shake their fist at you. Self-preservation is going to need to be your priority number one. These individuals are predators. They have zero empathy. They have zero kindness, unless they think there's something that they can gain from you, and then even then the kindness is phony. You want to be very judicious also about criticizing the group and the group dynamic to people who might be on the fringe of that group, because you can have the kerosene effect. that person could go back and say something, perhaps even innocuous, that triggers the group, and here it comes all at you again. And so you want to be careful that you just you confide only in people that you have the deepest level of confidence and trust in. When you're confronted by these individuals and they're going to come after you, save your breath with respect to speaking about your different ideas or how kooky they are or how difficult they are, because these individuals have a very predictable lack of logic and reason. You're going to need to cut ties with a group like that as thoroughly as you can, and then frankly make room for some heartache, realizing that was a group that maybe I used to be a part of, but I can't be a part of them anymore. And there's such a toxicity to the entire system that I just can't allow myself to be a part of that. Typically, when you have this gang stalking and then the gang rejection of you, there usually is a strong leader that everybody takes their cues from. It all depends on the size of the group. There may be 2 or 3 of them. And these individuals, like I say, they've sold their soul down, their individuality down the river, that they just take their cues from individuals who have nothing but contempt and a false need for superiority. So that being the case, I really do hope that when you know that that's going to be your lot in life, you'll pull back and know I'm going to need to seek greener pastures with other individuals. Frankly, you want to sigh in relief, thinking, I don't want to be, I don't need to be associated with people that can be this mean. Perhaps they started out being nice and engaging in the original time, but it's like, if this is what we're dealing with, that's something I have no need for. And then let's remind ourselves that your satisfaction in life, of course, is going to be tied at some level to the level of associations and connections you have with other individuals. But ultimately, your satisfaction in life is not necessarily derived from the reinforcement of groups, but it comes from you knowing that your character is right and that you have a sense of forward movement in your own personal life. And when this gang comes after you and says, well, we don't agree with you, we don't like you, we don't want you as part of our group, just in your mind, it's like, good for me on that. These are individuals that just don't have good insight. That being the case, pull back, reconnect with your own self and your own self-care, and then you're going to need to move forward with a whole system of other individuals that are going to be much more kind and love oriented and patient, etc. That's why we talk about DRC here on our Surviving Narcissism channel, dignity and respect and civility. Now, I hope that videos such as this can give you some good food for thought and give you some idea of what you're dealing with. I know many of you have been through this. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so, and we'll keep more videos coming with you. My heart goes out with you, and I'm so pleased that I get to be on the journey with you. Thank you for allowing me that privilege. If you have a need for therapy, and I know many times when you're dealing with something like this, that could be very helpful. You know that I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. Ever since the pandemic, it's become very popular to pursue online therapy. The people there are licensed, they're professional. You have to fill out a few sheets or a few items of information, and then you can select from their therapist that they have there. The link below is there, and you get a 10% discount for your first month if you go through our link. In addition, I have my therapeutic courses. This is like signing up for online classes. It's very extensive, quite a bit of work. I put a lot of work into putting them together, and then you would do a lot of work on your end. Each course has multiple videos, like 25 or more, with written documents per video and guided questions. We have Ready, Set, Connect about how to make healthy connection skills. Free to be about finding yourself despite the controllers. This is me establishing your boundaries, and all of that can be so necessary when you're dealing with what I'm talking about. We also have my webinars, our Surviving Narcissism podcast. We have lots of articles on our website, as well as my book, so plenty of resources. I know it can be so disillusioning, and you can feel so overwhelmed when you have that gang stalking tendency that these individuals will bring, but I'm hoping you can pull back and remind yourself there's nothing that can substitute for you having good character. pull back, practice self-care, and I'm hoping in doing so, as time goes by and the attacks minimize more, you're going to be able to find your sense of peace.